Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Beer and Bayonets. Of course, I'm your host, Mo. So tonight's guest is actually a repeat offender. You might recognize him from, we had him, I guess, 2 years ago now, which is crazy for the holiday season episode. Yeah, so brought back by popular demand, ladies and gentlemen, Pastor Joel. How you doing, brother?
How's it going, Mo? Thanks for
Well,
having me.
yeah, thanks for coming back.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. So I'm not. It's not beer this time. It's Knob Creek for me. What do you got?
I'm not sponsored, so I'm just going to say whiskey.
That's fine. Well, it's great to be here, man. I love what's happening with your podcast, and now we're on video.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we're all grown up.
I know, man. You're kind of looking at different platforms now. This is awesome. How are things going with the podcast, and what are some of the topics that in the last few guests you've had? What have been some of the big topics that you think were like real highlights?
I'll ask the questions here. Thank you very much. No, I appreciate it, man. To be honest, it's blown up bigger than I could ever imagine. Like as you know, this is just a hobby for me.
Yeah.
But I mean, the amount of support and love that I've gotten since day one, I've literally never had anyone say anything negative, leave me a negative comment, negative review. Like, if anything, it's the total opposite. Like, I'll go to a restaurant or something. People are like, oh, hey, I love the episode about so and so. I was like, okay.
Like total strangers talking to you?
Well, like my kids' coworkers and stuff. Like, they'll just like come. The craziest thing is to hear somebody quote something you say that you don't remember saying. But I'll be like, awesome. So I like my steak medium rare, please. But yeah, no, it's been great. But anyway, enough about me. We're here to talk about you.
Okay.
So one thing, all right. I'm always pushing books on here that I read. Again, I'm not sponsored. I don't have an Amazon books or anything. I just like to share knowledge about books that I come across and just experience that I've had. And I came across this one book. It's pretty great. It's called the Bible. It's written by God, I think. Anyway, highly recommend it. If you guys haven't checked it out, please check it out. I think it's on Amazon. Anyway, I am not a expert on things religious of any kind. So I'm gonna be honest. One of the reasons I brought you on the show tonight is, for those of you who don't know, the Bible, obviously the Christian Bible, a lot of good things in it. Like I said, I highly recommend it. If you haven't read it, give it a check. Check it out. In the book of Genesis, it's the beginning of everything, right? Now, for my Muslims and my Jews, this is not a religious podcast, and I'm not trying to make it that. Just something that I came across that I'd love to run by you. Mm-hmm. So, in the book of Genesis, which is like the beginning of everything, I believe in chapter 11, if I'm not mistaken. So we talk a lot about, this show is all about making us 1% better every day, right? Through habits, through traits, through mindset, yada, 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 right? But a lot of that is self-driven, right? Like you have to motivate yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to start the habit, whatever it is. However, if there's one thing Jews, Muslims, Christians, most major religions in the world agree is there is a God. Right? We don't agree necessarily on his or her name, but we agree that there's a higher power. Yeah. Now, if you're an atheist, feel free to turn this off. I don't talk to idiots. I will debate this all day. Like, if that offends you, send me an email, jose@beerandbayonets.com. We can do this all day. For everyone else that is of semi-rational thought, wow, we believe in a higher power, right? Now, the question I have for yourself is, I have read Genesis. It's the first book of the Bible. I've read it a dozen times. I don't know how many times in my life.
Yeah,
The other day,
it's usually the one that every time we want to do, like, all right, I'm gonna read this thing cover to cover.
yeah,
Somewhere around halfway through Genesis, you're like, ugh, it's just
look,
The
look, man.
ADD stuff.
For me, it's numbers. Once I hit numbers, that's
Yeah.
it. I just fall off. Like I'm like, you know what? Maybe next year. But anyway, I was reading Genesis, and the other day I came across chapter 11, and there's this story, I believe in chapter 11, about the Tower of Babel,
Oh yeah, that's good.
right? And for those that are not familiar with the story of the Tower of Babel, and again, please, sir, correct me if I'm wrong here. But essentially, in Babylon, the Babylonians had gotten together and decided to build a tower to reach heaven, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's basically the gist of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, they were not successful because God came down. And at that point, I guess everyone spoke one language, but God came down and changed everybody's language. And now to this day, that's why we have different languages, right? That's basically the gist of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was familiar with that story too. But what got my attention the other day for the first time ever
Mm-hmm.
is that in that story, God says
Yes.
we need to go down there
Yes.
because whatever man puts their mind to it, they will accomplish.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Um,
It's one of my favorite. It's one of the most unsung, unpreached, unnoticed little snippets in that story.
why have I never heard this before?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Like, literally, I'm gonna say that again.
Yeah.
God,
Yes.
we all agree. All of us that believe in a God believe that God is above us, right?
Mm-hmm.
No one thinks we're on the same level. In the Bible,
Yep.
his book, he says, yeah, you know what? I need to go down there because if they put their mind to something, they're gonna do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This is can. Okay. I don't. I want you to finish your thought because this gets
Bro,
wild.
I mean, well, that blew my mind. You want to talk about motivation?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Ah. Yes.
Like, please, no, please. I mean, the floor is yours.
Okay.
I really would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Oh my gosh. So I had a similar experience a number of years ago, again, rereading Genesis, and I hit that. I never, because for those of us who grew up in church, we look at the story of the Tower of Babel as just another bad thing that humans should never do.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Right.
yet we don't see that story as an affirmation of our greatness.
Right.
And okay, let's talk about this a little bit. So another passage, and I believe it's in Psalms, it says that you made humans only a little lower than angels. Bible translators throughout the years have had a problem with the word Elohim, which the word Elohim is the plural word for God, Yahweh. It's like God plural. And
Okay.
Bible translators throughout the years have had a problem with that because many of them did not believe in some kind of a Trinity, so they couldn't think of a God in plurality. And then they also, in that particular passage in Psalms, where it says where David, he's kind of speaking off of the direct inspiration from the Holy Spirit. He's saying, "You only made man a little lower than Elohim." A lot of Bible translators later on just said, let's just call that word angels in the English and not call it Elohim, which is actually the plural word for God.
Okay,
So
so originally,
originally, you only made humans a little lower than God.
okay, yeah. So all right, so I'm tracking.
Yeah, yeah. And so think about this. When God, let's talk about Genesis now. When God created creation, he first made creation. He made the sun, the moon, the stars. He made the planets. He made the water. He made the land. He made creation. And then he created creatures, cattle, fish, birds. And then God created creators. Us, creatures
Sure.
in his divine
Yeah.
likeness. In his divine
Right.
likeness. We actually carry the fabric of divine likeness. Like what makes us so special and so separate, and I'm going to tie this all back to Babel in a second. But if you look at the process of creation as told in the Bible, you see God speaks everything. He speaks light, and he speaks the sun, the moon, the stars. He speaks the water. He speaks the land. He speaks the birds.
Okay.
But with humans, he does something that makes all of the angels go silent for a second. He actually gets his hands dirty.
Hmm.
The Bible says that he molded humanity with his own hands. Like everything else, he had spoken into creation, but with humans, he was willing to get his hands dirty. And then he did something that was absolutely just audacious, pure audacity. He breathes his own essence into this clay creature, and out comes Adam. So this Adam now is made by God's hands, and he's breathed his ruach, which is the Hebrew word for spirit, into this creature. And now this creature has the ability to create like he does. So this is really why, this now right away begins to shift a lot of people's thinking on the value of human life. Like, why do monotheistic religions care for human life? And why is it that like religious teaching teaches us to care for our neighbors and teaches us to value human life?
Right.
When you think of like an atheistic view, they equate humans at the same level as animals. We're not any more
Right.
special in the cosmos than if you don't have a creator, then the creation doesn't have a purpose. And
Correct.
so
And
this is why
how many? I mean, that's why everyone's running around trying to find what is the meaning of life,
right without
because they have no
creating,
purpose. You have no
there is no
purpose.
purpose. Yeah. I'm big into tech, as you know. I love tech.
Yeah.
Without a manufacturer's owner manual, the laptop will never serve its purpose. The piece
That's
of
a good way
tech,
to put it.
it'll never know its purpose because
Right.
creation cannot define its purpose aside from creator. So now let's fast forward all the way to Babel, right? Humans, these godlike, deity-like creatures on earth, separate from animals, separate from angels, just, oh my gosh. And God affirms. Now this is where, okay, so you found the what, but we're going to talk about the why in a second, which is even deeper. And then we're going to take Babel, by the way, if you don't mind, and we're going to fast forward and talk about what is Babel today, if you don't mind, because this gets
Yeah. For the record, this is not a religious podcast,
yes.
and I'm not trying to make it that. I just stumbled across what, in my opinion, is probably one of the most underrated
Underrated.
statements in the Bible. Like,
Yes. Yes.
you're talking about God had to come down and intervene
Yes.
because we were gonna do it, not because
Do it.
like no, they're idiots. He's like, nope, they're gonna make it happen. I need to get involved. No, so yeah, so please continue.
Yeah, and we create the same way God creates. By the way, God starts with a thought, and then He declares it, and then eventually becomes a reality. We actually create the same way.
Yeah,
And so people like to underrate or undermine the power of the human imagination. They like to make this imagination thing like not qualified as reality, when everything we've ever built started here.
that's true.
Like our imagination is the fabric of reality. It is actually every architect, every design, everything we've ever done started here, and yet we say this, oh, this isn't real. Nah, man, this is actually where reality is born, right here. The human imagination. Yes, because
That's a great point. Yeah.
we are like God in that sense. We carry his image in that sense. Okay, Babel. So of course, humanity, and yet, although humanity made less than Elohim, carrying this fabric of deity, we're still not like him. We're still fallible. We're still corruptible, and we're still prideful, right?
Right.
So what is humanity's trying? The Tower of Babel. They're trying to build heaven on their own terms. Yeah, I'm going to build a version of heaven on my terms, not God's. And God, as a good, this is why God is like, he's infinitely wise. I think the wisdom or the lesson of that story is that God, as a good father, knowing that his children are about to create a version of themselves that they would be permanently lost in their own pride. He actually, you got to understand not just the what, the scenario, that yes, these creatures are capable of building a version, an, a ultimately lesser version of heaven, but a version of heaven on their own. Without God stepping in, they would be lost in their own pride. And so what does he do? He steps in as a father, and he actually course corrects the entire groupings of humanity. He actually course corrects the whole thing. Like he almost like he like there's like really like there's a lot of drama in the what, but the magic, the real magic, is in the why. Why did he step down? Why did he stop that? Why did he stop that project? Because as a father, he didn't want his humans to be lost to their own obsession with themselves.
And that's great. And I appreciate that. But all I heard is God said I can do anything I want. I mean, that's essentially what I took from that.
Yes, sure.
It's God the Almighty says I'm capable of anything I put my mind to. If that's not enough motivation to make shit happen, bro, I got nothing for you.
Yes.
Now, with that being said, please continue. Like,
No,
this is blowing my mind that in the Bible, it basically says, "Hey, man, you put your mind to it, you're gonna make it happen."
You are going to make it happen. Because remember, like this proves that we're godlike. This proves that we're in His image. Like this proves, that, this just proves our capacity, our capability. One of the things that I believe, I really do believe this, is that machines have a calculable limit to their potential. I believe humans do not.
I mean, I'm gonna have to take your professional opinion on that as a techie guy.
Yes. Yeah. Because how do you watch this now? Humans, what makes us human is our spirit. How do you put a calculable limit on the potential of a spirit? You can't.
Nah.
Machines have a calculable limit. Like the math can eventually cap out.
Right.
Not with humans.
That's an interesting perspective. Yeah. So, I think we can talk about this all night.
No, I'm sorry. You opened up.
No, I'm glad because when I read this, I was like, yo, I gotta call Joel because I feel like I'm not reading this right. You know what I mean? Like you hear, I was like, I feel like this is like borderline blasphemous, but I think I'm reading this. So I just I needed your professional opinion. So I appreciate that. But now, fast forwarding that, right? You talk about pride, and obviously, my personal opinion is pride is something that only afflicts adults. I don't believe children suffer from pride. I've been all over the world. I've seen humans of all different ethnicities, backgrounds, religions, cultures. I've never seen a toddler be racist. I've never seen a kid be susceptible to pride, right? If anything, they're willing to share, they're willing to play, they put all their differences aside. So with that being said, you were talking about some of the things that affect us in adulthood before we started the recording. You were talking about some of the things that affect us in adulthood and why. So please just let's give a little recap about what you were talking to me about earlier.
Yeah. We were talking about like the 6 stages of the masculine journey, right? Is that what you're referring to? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is I just finished this book, Fathered by God, by this guy named John Eldredge, and
the book wasn't fathered by God. It's titled.
The title.
Okay. Well, I just finished this book, Fathered by God. I was like, I just finished this book, Fathered by God. No, I don't think we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah. No, and the 6 stages that's referred to in the book is boyhood or a boy, then cowboy, then warrior,
okay,
then lover, then king, and then sage. and those are your 6 stages of a man's growth and maturity throughout his life. Now they overlap, the stages overlap for sure.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
know, and if you're looking at any, you know, boy on a playground, you'll see all 6 stages in play. Like you'll see them. You'll see like a king step up and command the compound of the playground, and you'll see fighters and warriors, and you'll see a boy trying to flirt with a girl. Like you see all these different things, right? But one of the things that we notice about men in their journey is, especially if they get to king, um, there's an interesting thing that happens. Like the primary function of the boyhood season, and this is usually between 0 till about 10 years old,
All right.
10 or 12 years old, around there, like pre-adolescence, like actual childhood. Usually that season, there's really only one major requirement. And according to the book, Mr. John Eldridge that wrote this, he feels that the most important thing is that a child feels that they are loved. That's the most important thing. If a child feels loved, celebrated, that they matter, all the other stages will eventually, take shape. However, the vast majority of us don't feel loved in our childhoods. And so what will happen
All right.
is usually as a man goes through his stages, he'll enter his warrior stage, and it'll be dramatized. It'll be he'll pick a fight with everyone. He'll pick a fight with everything. Because there was something missing way back here. And when he enters his king stage, he's now in a place of influence. He's got a little bit of money, right? He's got some authority in his realm of business or work or whatever. That man who's in a king stage, instead of using his authority, his resources to serve people, he'll go back and try and serve that little boy and buy himself big fancy gifts and spend a whole lot of money. When I read this, I was like super challenged. I was like, oh my God, like screw you, man. Like what the like
Yeah.
I felt like dude, you you have no right to assault me like this.
Yeah. I
But
was just gonna say you're not gonna come for me on my own show. Like I don't. That's not gonna happen. So we're just gonna move on to the next
we're just
topic.
gonna but, but I
Boss.
think
Yeah.
I think I think what ends up happening is that, you're going back to your point about kids, like, kids were made to be loved. They were made to,
Yeah.
they're loving creatures. They're
Yeah.
passionate creatures. They get selfish and greedy, sure. But if you look at the way kids eventually care about the other person, they're more generous than we are.
Right.
And somehow along the way, we lose that, you
Yep.
know? And so it's definitely an interesting study. And one more thing I'll say about it too is, like, I think in general, like that last stage of sage, since reading that book, I've come to find a little bit more appreciation to people who've lived through life a little bit more, and just kind of giving them a little bit more space to ask them questions and let their opinions, like most of their opinions, I'm like, okay, oh God, here we go. Most of their opinions, I don't always treasure, but I'm finding that, like,
That
the
sounds like a
goal of
terrible quality for a pastor, by the way.
yeah, sure, right. I'm just being honest here, man. But Sage, his job is to help a king avoid mistakes,
Mm,
right? That's the
okay.
job of Sage now. Like it's like, all right, he's already had his time as king. Now he's downsizing a little bit. Now he's getting out of the way, and his job is to protect the king. That's his job.
Mm,
And
sure.
we have an obsession with expertise in our culture. We have an obsession with that. But like, I would rather, like, you got a big military following, right? I
Yeah.
would rather like I would rather go to war with a seasoned general who's already been through battles and come out on the other side than go to war being led by a college student who wrote his thesis on war.
So
You know
would
what
we.
I mean?
They're called lieutenants, and we have no respect for them.
Yeah, that's
So
what I mean.
yes, yeah, that's a real thing. Yeah, no, I mean that's a great point. Yeah. So all right, that's no, that's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate you sharing that with us. Um,
I think the big tragedy too is when kings and sages, those who are later in life,
yeah,
when they're so busy just catering to their own needs, that then upcoming generations don't get the preparation they need for their journey, because everybody who's at the top, or who's later on and who's a little further along in their journey, they're too busy catering to themselves. And
yeah.
it's like, God, like, dang, there's got to be a way for us to fix this. There's got to be a way for us to allow the right design to take hold, for how this
I,
work is supposed to
you
be.
know, you and I have talked about this before. Like, I feel like that onus is on you at the end of the day, right?
Yeah,
Because, like you said, everyone has a sad childhood story, one way or another,
everyone.
and you could sit here and live off that for the rest of your life, never pass that warrior stage, picking fights with everybody. You're still going to have kids. You're still going to have a spouse. You're still going to have, in some form of leadership role, you're going to have people following you. But if you never advance past that stage because you don't decide to,
Hmm.
man, not only are you ruining your future, but you're ruining potential future generations.
Generations.
Like you and I have talked about the importance of being a father, being a leader, right,
Yeah,
or a mother, like anyone in charge of anyone. Now,
yeah,
you don't have to be in the military to be in charge. Right? If you have influence over someone, you're a leader, right?
yeah.
So if you're busy still as a grown man or woman focusing on that little kid, trying to heal that little kid, and living off that, you're damaging potential, not just your kids' generation, but maybe even your grandkids' generation. Like it
Yeah.
is such a powerful role to be a father or a mother or anyone in charge, right? Like I was just having a conversation with my buddy like 2 days ago.
Mm,
He was in the Marine Corps back in 2003, I believe.
mm.
This was last night. We were talking about this. He was talking about the initial invasion of Iraq. I mean, the dude's like, he was there.
Wow.
Um,
No,
yeah,
early days.
like
It was wow. When it was like,
no, no,
yeah,
like in the early days of Iraq, like no rules, like Wild West. They were the first guys in there, the initial invasion Marines, right? You know what he remembers? Besides all the shitty living conditions, his leadership. They were like, "Hey, we're leaving. It's time for us to go. If I call your name, this is the plane that you're going on." There was a bunch of guys that they didn't call their name. They're like, "Excuse me, first sergeant, who's? What if you didn't call her name?" It's like, "Oh yeah, if I didn't call your name, we got a bird coming for you. Just hold tight." They're like, "Yeah, but when?" They're like, "Well, we'll let you know." The guy in charge, the first sergeant, got on the bird and the commander and left. He left a bunch of Joes behind.
wow,
So these guys that are like 19 years old, 20 years old, they're left in Iraq. Their commander, their first sergeant, their senior leadership all went home and left them there. This has been 20 plus years since this happened, and that's what he remembers. Now, can you blame that first sergeant, that commander, for going home? I say yes, but some people might say no. Oh, well, they wanted to go home. They have families too. Well, guess what? So did those, 19-year-old kids that had just signed up to join the military, right? Maybe right after 9/11, and
wow.
they think the military is going to take care of them. And what happened? You abandoned them in a war zone, like in the war
It was
zone.
a
That was
war
the
zone,
war zone,
huh?
in the war zone.
Wow.
We're not talking about Germany or Korea. Like this is Iraq during the initial invasion, right? And that's what he remembers. Like you have the potential anytime you are in a leadership role, whether that be a father, a mother, a teacher, a leader, any kind of leadership role. And we've talked about in the past, leadership is just having influence, right? John Maxwell,
John Maxwell. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How many of us listen to the show have influence over someone or a bunch of someone's, right? If you're still too busy trying to nurture that little kid that got hurt when you like, oh, so what? Your dad didn't give you enough hugs. Fuck, everybody had lived all through that. It's on you to break that cycle. It's on you to be like,
Yeah.
you know what? This sucked for me. I'm gonna make sure it doesn't suck for the next generation.
Yeah. My favorite statement about that is that it's not your fault. The pain is not your fault. but the healing is your responsibility.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? And so, listen,
100%.
there's some people listening to this right now that I think that they still, again, pride is, I think, the biggest detractor for progress. Like,
Absolutely.
you either get progress or you get pride, but you can't have
But
both. And
pride is the crush of the insecure.
exactly. And I think, like, those who are listening today, if you know that there's some stuff that you need to work through, dude, go get some help.
Yeah.
Get some help, man. You know, whether if it's with a therapist or some church or something, get some help, man. Like, there are people that will either be damaged by you or blessed by you to the level that you are intentional about your own healing. Like, this is so, maybe the pain was not your fault. And I'm speaking to everyone's listening to this. Pain was not your fault, but the healing is your responsibility.
Yeah.
And that, man, that is like, if we can just be intentional about that, we might actually live like in a better society overall. Because hurting people will hurt people.
Yep. 100%.
That's it. Like, if you don't heal, you're gonna bleed on those who never cut you.
Hurt
And
people, hurt people.
hurt people. And going back to John Maxwell, right? You and I have talked about this too. One of my favorite laws of that 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, right, is
Mm-hmm.
the law of the lid, which
Yeah.
is like, you are, as the leader, you're the lid, and you either can raise that lid or you cap out everyone else. Like, you are it. And so that's something that I think for a lot of us, like, even my own personal life, like, what does that look like for me, right? Like, I'm my dad, he got diagnosed with diabetes at 35,
Okay.
and I'm 33.
Mm.
And my dad was married to my mom for 14 years, and then they got
Mm-hmm.
divorced when I was 3 years old. I've been married to my wife for 12. And so for me, like, I'm trying to raise the lid.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm certainly not perfect. I'm struggling my way through this. And some days I really do feel like it's one step forward and two steps back. But
But you're trying.
yeah.
But you're trying. Looks like, man, so I had, I was in charge of 100-something people for a long time, for a couple of years. And I remember I had this newly promoted guy. He came in my office one day and he was like, "Hey, man, you know, he just got promoted. So we put him in charge of a little team. He was maybe like 6 or 7 people. And he comes in my office. He's like, "Can I talk to you?" I was like, "Yeah, of course. What's up?" He's like, "How do you do this?" I was like, what do you mean?" He's like, how do you do this? I'm in charge of 6 people, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. It's like, how are you in charge of 137 people? Like, how do you do this every day? I was like, look, man, is if you try to live by a couple of rules, and I believe this applies to all facets of anyone that's a leader, right? Not just in the military. But one, don't get amnesia, right? It seems like people, especially as they advance in their career or their position or what have you, they forget how shitty it was for them when they were in that role,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? When they were a new employee, when they were a new private, when they were a kid, right? Whatever it is, they somehow immediately get amnesia. Like, hey, bro, just because it doesn't suck for you anymore doesn't mean it doesn't suck. It still does, right? Now it's just on you to make it not suck for those people, right? Because it's still the same thing, right? And if you do nothing, the sad thing is if you do nothing, the cycle repeats itself. That's the easy button, right? So don't get amnesia. And secondly, unfortunately, you have to be perfect. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, well, here's the thing, right? Human beings are flawed, right?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. I said, we cannot expect perfection from people, right? And they said, yeah. I said, you're wrong. I said, I'll tell you why. Let's say I have 100 employees, okay? I help 99 of them through their problems, right? I couldn't help this one guy, right? What is my success rate in a percentage? If I help 99 out of
Yeah,
100,
yeah.
what's
If you
my
don't help
percentage?
him, if you don't help him, you're zero.
No, my success rate is 99%. Obviously, math isn't your strong suit. If I help 99 people out of 100, my success rate is 99%.
Right, but to that person though,
To that one individual, what's his success rate?
zero.
Zero.
That's what
I
I
have
mean.
100. I'm 100% failure
Yeah,
to him,
yeah.
right?
That's what
I
I
was
mean.
like, you think he or she cares that I helped 99 other people that day?
Yeah.
Nope. I am 100% failure to that person.
Ugh.
So you have to be perfect. It sucks. But that's what you signed up for, right? And then three, sorry.
No, no. Yeah, you're good.
Give give a shit. That's it, right? Like if you try to do those three things, generally speaking,
Yeah,
over those you have influence over, 9 times out of 10, it's gonna be okay. It may
yeah,
not be perfect, but it'll be okay.
yeah.
But you
I
have
think
to try.
you have to try, and I think you just described also like not just in military leadership, but also in business.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like we have 1,700 customers in our in the tech firm that I work at, and all 1,700 customers, like we could be doing awesome for the vast majority, right? But it's just that one interaction or that one ticket
That's
that we
it.
didn't respond to in time, and
And
it's
they
just
don't care.
they don't care
They don't care.
because
You
they
have to be
vote.
perfect.
Yeah, customers vote with their feet, right? And so like either they're with you or they're not, right? And they
Mm.
vote with their feet, right? So you gotta, man, it's just hard. It's just hard. Like
No, yeah. No one said it's easy,
yeah, yeah.
but it is possible,
It is possible, man.
right? Like you said, as a husband, as a father, as a wife, as a leader, whatever. Like if you have influence over those, you have a responsibility to those underneath you to be better.
Yeah,
And going back to the beginning, God says I am capable of anything.
that's right.
So you really have no excuse.
Yeah, and I want to add to that too, Mo. God said that about humans before, and we believe in the Christian faith that
Yeah.
our power actually comes from the resurrection. Like we believe that because Jesus rose from the dead, he now placed himself as basically like the highest power and authority of the universe. Like he
Mm-hmm.
rose from the dead. And Paul in the later like less letters in like the epistles of the apostle Paul after the gospels, it says that the same power that rose Jesus from the grave is in us. And so it's like think about this. Like way back before the resurrection, before the indwelling of the Holy Spirit to give us power to do great things, before any of this, God had already said humans can do anything. And then fast forward to now, there is a resurrection. A human has now conquered the grave. A human, Jesus died as a human, rose again as a human. A human has conquered the grave. And now his spirit lives in me. And, this is according to my faith as a Christian. And so it's like, what excuse do I have?
Right.
What excuse do I have?
You have all the tools necessary.
I have all the tools necessary, and so I think the most important thing now goes back to another teaching of Jesus is, don't swear by your head, don't swear by the temple, simply let your yes be yes and your no be no. I think let your yes be yes, let your no be no. I think now the most important thing there is protecting your commitments. And so
Mm.
like because you can accidentally yes yourself into a failure rate,
Oh, absolutely. People do it all the time.
right? But you see what I mean? And so it's just
Yeah.
like I think now I have no excuse. I like of what is required of me to succeed. I have all the tools capable to do so. I think what's now important is just protecting what I commit to do. And and that right there, like we are actually encouraged not to say yes to everything. We're encouraged to protect with healthy boundaries. That way, when we do say yes to something, you know, it'll never not get done, you know. And we can see this modeled in the life of Jesus. Like it or not, like Jesus didn't actually say yes to every single request that came his way. It's just the truth.
Right.
But yet every time he agreed to a request, we see it that every single one was fulfilled. And so, you know, there's this, you know, I think now, like, there's a lesson there, right? I think there's a lesson there.
Yeah. Don't answer every email.
Don't answer every email. Oh
Got it. Yep. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh man. So.
No, that's right. So, yeah. Not to make this a religious thing, but
yeah.
Most people, like I said, if you're an atheist, I hope you're not still listening because this wasn't for you. But all of us that do believe in some sort of higher power can agree. The fact that God wrote in the Bible that man is basically capable, and by man we say mankind, right?
Yeah.
Man is capable of anything they put their mind to. And then you talk about that Paul said we have the same power that resurrected Jesus from the grave. And all the big three religions agree that Jesus was a man that lived on earth. So that's not really that far fetched, right? So if you have any semblance of belief in any of these things, like you said, what's your excuse? I mean, if you're listening to this at the gym, bro, go for that next rep. Like, throw that next plate on there. If you're on the bike, push harder. If you're running, you can run faster, right? I mean, you have the power is within you. Like, you have the capabilities. Mm-hmm. Now, you know, barring realistic standards, I'm never going to play in the NBA, no matter how much I believe in myself. That ain't going to happen. Does that mean I'm not capable of great things? Absolutely not. When I started this thing, you know, 2.5, almost 3 years ago now, this started as a hobby. And it was something that I just put together, and now we're listened to. We're heard in over 400 cities in 35 countries. I only speak 2 languages, bro. And this show is recorded in English. We were heard, like, I was checking my stats the other day. We were heard in over 35 countries. Like, you want to talk about capability? Hey, man, just do it. Whatever it is, do it. And don't wait. Just do it. Right? You're never gonna have the right time. You're never gonna have the ideal conditions. Like, get a 60% solution and run with it. You know, I mean, look at you. You know, you're VP of your tech consulting firm now. Like, you know, like but you weren't always there, right? Like, you're a made man. Like, the capability is within you. The only thing stopping you is you.
Yes.
That's it. Right? The problem is it's uncomfortable. Yeah. It is uncomfortable. Growth is painful of any kind. Change is always uncomfortable and unwelcome. Yeah. No matter what it is. So it's up to you. Decide your heart. Do you want to spend the rest of your life regretting what you could have done? Or do you want to just start that hobby that you've been putting off for the last 6 months, or wait till the next January because New Year, New Me is already over? So, like, we'll just try it in 2026. Like, nah, man, get after it. You have no excuse. Yeah. So, hey, brother, always a pleasure. I appreciate you being on the show.
Always.
I'm sure we'll have you back again at one point or another. But yeah, so if you guys are in Tampa, feel free to check out the Resting Place Church, right? Resting Place Church with Pastor Joel. And again, thank you guys so much for listening and watching on YouTube. If that's what you're at. So thank you guys. Get after it. Love y'all. Bye.